Good morning, staff. Welcome to a slightly different format. We're calling this an office hour. It'll probably be more like 90 minutes or possibly a bit more than that, actually, as it turns out today, because we've got a bit to chat about. One or two issues. Can we, please? I forgot that I had it open. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, staff. Welcome to Amateur Hour.
You don't have any space on your desk.
No space on my desk. No, it's just covered in shit that Ted's put there. I keep telling him to clean his area up. And what does he do? He lies here on the face with his tongue out, contributing exactly nothing as usual. Oh, where did Ted go? I know where he went. He went to twiddle the knobs. Good boy, Ted. Good boy. Some things will be unchanged on the
like that.
Other things will be changed, including the format. So here it goes. For the first hour or so, we are going to play questions and answers as per usual. However, I'm going to challenge myself to see how quickly I can answer every question. Minimum words, just for a game. Why not? Let's make it fun. You may super chat us. Thank you, FX Trader. You may continue to super chat us throughout the show in large denominations, if you like, and if you can afford to do that.
My nose looks like Rudolph. Is that?
It's the camera, probably. It's adding a little bit of pink that probably isn't there.
Because it wasn't that cold.
I've got the color temperature set to a set color, and it's probably just not quite right for today. Should we move on?
No, keep explaining.
Yes, and when you ask your questions, you know the usual drill. You put a capital Q, then a colon, type your question in full. Don't use TLAs or FLAs or PI, TA, FFS, and suffix the whole thing with a question mark. Thank you. That way Ted can look up from what he's doing in the knob twiddling department, find them and send them on to Her Majesty Pym, Queen of Pirates, to my immediate right. First of a name, mother of puppies, the unpoked, the cleaner of dog puke. That kind of thing. Anyway, once we've had questions and answers for an hour or so, we are going to talk about that fucking paper that's come out in the last week or so. And if you'd like to click that second window at the bottom of the screen there, that's the one. This is the one that we'll be talking about. For anyone that's had their head jammed somewhere warm and wet all week and doesn't know what's going on here, we will cover that in some detail, methinks. And I shall give you my thoughts. Yes. All right. So you can unclick it now. We'll talk about that afterwards. Promotions. Before we get going on questions, promotions staff. Number one, the Cerebral Stem Enhance is available to you in 70 countries and territories, along with Cyactive and Plasma Flow, a great triumvirate of products which you should get together in a wellness pack on Subscribe and Save. That is if you want to pay for it at all. If you'd like to get it for free, let me know somehow, probably email or something. My email is on the About tab on my channel. We have a program for that, and we can get you your product for free if that's what you want. Just a little bit of effort, really not even very much effort. You'll be surprised how easy it is, the benchmark, actually. If you're in the Australian and New Zealand market, then hardcore carnivore formulation of Stem Enhance Ultra is available for your purchasing pleasure right now. And once we've sold enough of those to convince the company that it's worth doing internationally, they will. But we're waiting on you a bit, New Zealand and Australia. The other thing that we're waiting on you doing, New Zealand and Australia, is booking your tickets to the Carnivore Live event, which will be taking place in 6 days from now in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. And there's a booking link there, trybooking.com. Carnivore Live, Melbourne, 26th of April, 2025. Book your jolly tickets, for otherwise, how else will you ever get an opportunity to meet His Lordship, Ted of Pimbatia, His Royal Highness Ted, King of the Bears, and some bald guy that usually hangs around with him. He'll be there too. 6 days from now. Book your tickets. All right? Tickets. Am I clear, staff? book your tickets. Goodness gracious. Right. Those are the promotions. Let's do some questions for a bit.
Yes, let's do questions.
Questions.
So, if it's true that caffeine raises blood sugar in some people, why do you think this happens?
Because caffeine has a direct effect on several channels that need to be activated on several membrane types that can cause several things to be activated that otherwise would not be activated, thus setting up a cascade of events leading to the intake of sugar to the bloodstream as a result of the effect of the caffeine on the liver, perhaps, in some cascade or another. That wasn't very good. I need to be shorter.
This is for me. At PIM, how long was the dry fasting? Until about 12 hours ago. So I cut it short with, well, it was supposed to be 4 days first, and then I decided I wanted to do 7.
6.5 days is not a short dry fast, my love.
No.
That was impressive. I take my hat off. If I was wearing one, I would take my hat off.
And the only reason I broke it was I was so sick of it. I couldn't sleep because as soon as I lay down, I got even more dry, and it was like having glue in my mouth, so I couldn't sleep. And I said, fuck it, I'm going to drink some. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, 6.5 days.
Good.
Correlation doesn't imply causation, but isn't the reason why Hong Kong has the highest life expectancy because Hong Kongers consume the most meat?
Per Goulier, I think. Are you French? I don't know. Right, correlation may imply causation. What correlation absolutely cannot do is posit causality. Different thing. In the case of smoking and lung cancer, there is a very strong correlation, which implies there may be a causal link. Very strongly, in fact. Okay. However, what that does not do is establish cause and effect, because the only way to establish cause and effect is experimentally, which I covered in a video this week on my channel, where I was talking to the very, very wonderful interviewer, Casey Ruff. Love us some Casey up in here. Thank you for the interview again, Casey. So yes, you should have a look at that. Isn't the reason why Hong Kong has the highest life expectancy because they consume the most meat? There is no evidence extant anywhere in the literature to support that claim. It is a correlation that go incapable of positing cause nor effect. We can all have an opinion on that. However, opinions are just like anal orifices in that almost everybody in the world has one. It's full of shit. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
I'll do some comments on my comment. Cortisol, yes, I had lots of that going on, but that wasn't the reason. It gives you a good buzz, doesn't it?
So far, I'm failing on the short answers thing. Totally.
You are.
Come on.
Nice job, him, and I'm awesome. I just need to get that one.
I'm impressed. I cannot do more than 3.5 days dry myself. I cannot do it.
I think you can. Anyhow.
I'm always telling people, if you think you can't, you're right. So there you go, whatever.
So start thinking you can then.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I messaged you guys over the years, was dealing with wild neurological issues. Took 3 years to be diagnosed with herniated discs and arthritis in 4 vertebrae. 0 arthritis symptoms though. Just wanted to get that out there because it's that is quite interesting that you can have a damage, but you don't have any symptoms. Wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question.
Yes.
58 years old and carnivore for over a year. Is a colonoscopy a must?
It's almost a must not. In fact, I wouldn't go near that with a barge pole unless there was a very, very good reason to do so. And on suspicion of absolutely nothing, I wouldn't do it. Colonoscopies are not risk-free. They're not high risk, but they are not risk-free. And if there's no reason to go looking, don't go looking.
So I'm beat. I did 10.5 days when I thought I was dying, and it was wild. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I had very little symptoms. I didn't get a dry mouth until day 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
it went really well. This was completely psychological. I just wanted to fucking sleep.
Other things will also remain unchanged on the channel, apparently.
The swearing?
Yes.
Sorry, I can go if you like.
No, carry on. Your Majesty, Pym, Queen of Pirates, etc. Go
on. Our deep common ancestors would have been frugivores, which explains our teeth and color vision, ? And eventually our biology shifted to carnivore. Might we be evolving to be more omnivore?
Okay. As to the first part, yes, absolutely. We come from leaf and fruit such that it was at that time eating beasties way back. We're talking longer than 5 million years. It does explain our teeth, yes, which there's no negative selection pressure to tell our teeth they need to change shape. So they don't. We are perfectly capable of chewing through meat, so it doesn't matter. And colour vision, not 100% certain on that one. I mean, colour vision is also beneficial if you are trying to predate on other animals as well. So I don't think it's specifically to see the colour of fruit. It would seem to be a bit reductionist. Are there no carnivore animals that see colour other than humans? Don't know. All right, and eventually our biology said, yes, it did. Might we be evolving to be more omnivore? Well, if a person comes from a line of most recent ancestors that did eat a lot of plant material again, then there will be some drift back that way. But you need to understand how slow this drift is. It's glacial. It's over deep time, thousands and thousands and thousands, like hundreds of thousands of years for a meaningful change. Go on, super action.
Yes, and I can see it now because you got that window up. So this is a
dancing pair with
looking in the mirror.
Going.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks for being you.
Matthew also said that he had to use a strap to keep his mouth shut.
I'm often told I need that, dry fasting or not. But anyway, that's for another day.
Yeah. And I do need that if I sleep on my back. Then my mouth wants to fall open. So I sleep on my side when I'm dry fasting.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that was the one.
Yes, that's some good echoes. The echoes in here are good, aren't they?
There's no echo, just a flashback. Is there anything in eggs that I need that I cannot get from red meat? I'm wondering if I need to add eggs or just eating meat. I will get all the nutrients I need.
Absolutely, every nutrient you need is to be found in red meat and associated fat, yes. No eggs are required.
But they are nice.
But they're nice. They're a great source of nutrition for those that do well on eggs. There is a percentage of the population that doesn't, sadly.
And they have lots of choline?
However, lots of choline is only good if you need lots of choline. Really. Anyway, what's next? Jean, we love you. Nothing you can do about it.
What causes a headache when you are adjusting to carnivore? I finally transitioned slowly over 2 months to carnivore, and my head is killing me since I dropped the final carbs.
Pim, go.
Well, I haven't found a solution, so I need to eat carbs.
Right. So a very small amount of carbs can alleviate that problem, and you won't have to hand in your carnivore card.
So I'm not even trying to push it now, but I did for a long time.
You can click the question down so we can see your pretty face if you like.
Pretty face. It was all red.
It's not. In reality, I'm looking at it.
No, not in reality, but on the
camera.
Screen.
Yeah. You look like a lush Lucille.
I used to try to see how long I could go without getting a headache, which was anywhere between 5 and 15 days. And then I would have to eat some carbs, and 40 to 50 grams is kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah. Not several hundred.
No. Still considered low carb, I suppose. But,
yes.
You know, a little bit of rice. I would prefer sweet potato taste-wise, but that raises my blood sugar so much, so that's...
You just need fucking sugar. That's all you do. The energy will come out of your ass.
Fuck to shut up. Not great for my blood sugar. Anyway, so yeah, rice as medicine worked for me. You can try it and see if it works for you, and maybe you will be able to transition away from it. I wasn't.
Yes.
So now I'm having more carbs, more intermittently, and it's mostly once a month headaches rather than no carbs headaches. Right.
Yes.
58-year-old,
Mm.
170 pounds, very active, lots of walking, sprinting, and lifting weights. How much protein do I need a day?
2 grams per lean kilo of body mass, plus or minus about 10%.
Veal broth, by the way.
Mm.
Oh, what's this starred still? There we go.
Mhm.
Is Bart going to do a video on the LMHR study?
Yes, Nairi, I am. Straight after this question and answer session in this very same stream, once we're finished with questions, I'm going to talk about it, yes.
So if you want to go quicker, don't ask any questions.
You just want to get it quicker.
No. Hello, folks. New to your content, loving it. I've been on keto diet since February. What is the time frame you recommend to transitioning to carnivore diet with regards to cutting out the plants?
Oh, up to 6 weeks. Slowly. Don't do it in a hurry. Mm.
Right. I read an article where they admitted that about 300,000 years ago, humans started eating a lot of meat. It sounds way too late. What do you think?
Can I borrow the mouse for a minute? What do I think of that? I think that humans have clearly and patently been eating a lot of meat for around about 5 million years, is what I think. The evidence for that seems to be quite clear in the anthropological data. I'm just raising you up. I raise you up. Just like, well, it is Easter Sunday here. So there you go. Raising up is what we're doing. We are raising up. Yeah, I think 5 million years or so for meat. Sorry about that. You carry on with the mouse.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel better now.
Thanks, Eugene.
Yes, as I say, love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Maybe she can.
Well,
All right, so next
I
one.
tell you what you can do actually, which would help. If you want to be unloved, come here for 5 weeks and cause mayhem rather than being helpful.
Break all our shit.
Yeah, and stuff.
Steal stuff. And,
Well, that's a bit strong.
well, depends on the definition of stealing, I suppose.
There was an amount of Indian giving. That's what they've called it. And I know that's casual racism. Sorry about that.
Never heard that.
I don't know anything about
expression.
it either, but I just assume it's casual racism to suggest that it's an Indian thing. I don't even know anything about Indian culture at all.
Shall we read this question then?
Yeah.
Follow up to frutivore, carnivore, omnivore shift. A wise talking ape would have told our frutivore ancestor that carnivore is contraindicated. But what if carnivore is ultimately the best strategy?
Why do you think that an ancient ape would have imagined carnivore to be contraindicated? I don't agree that any such thing was probably a likelihood. And carnivore, I think, is the best strategy because that's the strategy we have been adopting for about 5 million years. So humans and our predecessors back that far, it seems. Miss Patricia, are you all here?
Yes, Bart is a brilliant impressionist.
I do my best.
Well, I think Bart K is a better one.
Oh dear.
No,
How are you, Chris? Are you still alive, son, or have you starved to death?
probably later.
Mm.
Does carnivore help with impotence?
It can. It has the absolute potential, perhaps. However, I would suggest 5 health hacks. 5, which you'll find a video concerning on my fine YouTube channel already. It's called 5 health hacks you need to know.
I have the hiccups.
Yes.
Right. Will cereal help create new heart and nerve cells? My doctors said those cells can't regenerate because they are permanent.
Your doctor is an imbecile who does not know what they are talking about in that case.
Clearly not.
Because absolutely the answer is unequivocally yes, CD34 plus adult stem cells can and do differentiate into any new cell line in the body that is required by the body at any time, except for gametes, which are sperm and eggs. Anything at all.
Your doctor must be quite old if he actually believes that.
Yes,
or fucking stupid.
Or is, I don't know, or you've misinterpreted what was said, or there's a whole bunch of things that could be going on there. Anyway, it is false. Absolutely false. What's next?
I found this channel while watching Coach Greg video. I agree with Bart. Maybe another reaction video to Coach Greg would make this channel popular, or any other YouTuber.
I do a lot of reaction videos, and I'm thinking about doing a lot less rather than a lot more. If I was going to do a reaction, it'd be unlikely to be to Greg, because I've already done Greg.
You have done Greg.
I've done with Greg. I've eviscerated the boy. I've made him look exactly as he should look, as stupid as he needs to look. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
We move on. And prison company accepted, apparently. People that follow Greg Douchebag Do Set generally ain't the sharpest tools around the shed. So there's nothing to be gained there. Because the people that would watch my reaction to a Greg video are my supporters and Greg's, rather than new people.
Right then.
Yo.
Why, when you're in the hospital, they hook you up to an IV drip with dextrose and not with melted butter or animal fat?
Because they are ignorant of the requirements for human beings.
And you can't just...
And you wouldn't put that straight into your blood,
fat into your blood.
No, that's not a good thing.
That doesn't work. It needs to be transported.
It needs to go into your enteric system, into your stomach.
What other peptides would you recommend besides BPC 157?
Well, I don't necessarily recommend BPC 157. I let people know that it exists and what it claims to do. And it's a case-by-case basis as to whether there's an indication for BPC 157, let alone any other peptides. And the short answer is no, I don't actually talk to anybody about any other peptides.
Would you add or remove anything from your 5 health hacks video?
No, not at all.
No. We're done.
We're done.
No more questions.
Excellent. 23 minutes of questions. So I guess people want to get
We've never had these few questions. Oh, no, there are 2 popping in here.
Pop. Yes.
Yeah. Could Randall Sucker keep one healthy if the person eat high carb, low fat, lean meat, fish, etc.?
Healthy is an objective term. Sorry, a subjective term. It's not an objective term. It doesn't describe anything specific. You would need to clarify your question for me to answer it.
In terms of, let's say, blood sugar and stuff, then that would probably be better.
It is entirely possible that on the diet such as what you've described there, your blood sugar could show a normal response, yes.
But your hormones are going to be fucked.
Correct. And don't forget that glycative damage that will be occurring. Yeah.
How much electrolytes do we need a day? Why is the old paradigm recommending 4,700 milligrams of potassium and 400 to 500 milligrams of magnesium?
Right. Well, the answer to that question is it depends on who you are, where you are, and what you're doing most recently as to how many electrolytes of what kind you need on that given day. The paradigm recommending a certain number is a number that a board of individuals was assembled and asked to come up with a number, and they had a good chat about it, and they said, out of which orifice should we pull a number? How's 4,700 sound? Good show, bang the gavel, basically. Not to mention that the people sitting on that board are generally assembled by the person asked to chair it. Jobs for the boys. It's all good.
Question. 26-year-old and a construction worker, and also work out 3 to 4 times a week and have always been lean and athletic. Would you recommend adding in carbs to a mostly carnivore diet, or is there a lower limit?
I would not recommend adding carbs, no. Absolutely not. Unless you're one of those people that needs kind of maybe up to 50 because of headaches or whatever else.
When will you have another interview with Sarah Pugh? What are your thoughts on the relevance of quantum biology in relation to the electron transport chain of the mitochondria?
When her and I get our heads together and our calendars together and we're not at 12 and 13 hours differential time zones to each other is the answer to the first question. Also, no H on Sarah. It's just S-A-R-A. Okay. What are your thoughts on the... I think it's very relevant, of course, because the passing of electrons down the electron transport chain is a quantum thing. So, yes, there is a high degree of relevance and importance. And it's interesting stuff. Love it.
Love it. Why does the body hold on to water in heart disease, like when your feet swell up with edema?
Well, there seems to be a perfusion pressure with which blood is supposed to be coursed through your tissues, and that's part of the dynamic equation setting up the physics leading to the return of the lymph back to the central venous pool. It's also a muscle pump activated thing as well. So the balance of failing heart function and probable incapacitation physically can lead to the pooling of a lot of fluid in the lymph and insufficient venous return.
I have a friend who just had a feeding tube installed due to swallowing difficulties from throat cancer. Can they become keto then carnivore in this situation?
Well, you'd have to find a provider that's provided to put those nutrients down the tube.
Yes.
But yes, that is possible.
How do I gain weight on carnivore? I'm underweight and it's extremely hard on this diet.
Okay, so what do you mean by weight? Do you mean that number you get when you stand on a scale? In which case, I would suggest you to put rocks in your pocket, because that'll fix the problem, won't it? That will make that number go up on a scale, won't it? Or you could tell me what you mean by weight. If you mean muscle mass, well, the way you add muscle mass is by doing heavy resistance training, hypertrophy training. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That's got nothing to do with diet, by the way, the building of large musculature. When I say nothing to do with, I mean, obviously, an ideal diet will support muscle building ideally, but muscle building is a physical do thing. You have to train. You will not add muscle mass just by eating a certain way.
Great.
Yes.
If you're carnivore or keto and hospitalized, is there any concern about them using an IV with dextrose? Could it make whatever situation you have worse? Is it possible to request an alternative?
All of those things, yes, it is a concern as far as my thinking goes. I would not want to have that. It is possible to request anything you want to request. Whether you'll get it or not in any given hospital situation, I don't know. It's probably best just not to be hospitalized if you can help it.
Yes. Could we expect another video from you correcting Lane or Gil anytime soon? Those are my personal favorites.
It's a potentiality. It's a possibility. We'll see how my motivation to do so goes.
Can someone on a carb backloading diet, eating all the carbs for the day after a workout, avoid Randall cycle activation and be healthy?
In terms of the first, it's extremely unlikely that they'll be able to avoid Randall cycle issues. And again, that word healthy. Okay, it's subjective. What do you mean healthy? And over what period of time?
I guess my actual question is, can we even begin to ask and answer the question of if every animal on the planet gravitated towards carnivore, would their future offspring necessarily be better off?
Well, no, because an animal that's entirely evolved for a plant-eating life is not necessarily going to do better changing their diet across to only meat, because they don't really have the gear to handle that. And the inverse is true. If a person is evolved entirely for meat eating, as humans pretty much are, then feeding yourself nothing but plants will not get the job done in terms of providing you with the nutrient you require to thrive.
Okay.
Ew.
Can you confirm that atherosclerosis shows very little cholesterol under histology? Have you seen it yourself?
Yes to both questions. It is correct. Very little cholesterol is present. And yes, I have seen it myself, close up, a real person on the table with their chest open many times. Yes.
Yummy. Please put a big capital Q in front of your questions or I might miss them.
Indeed. Big hairy beavers.
Regarding the fallacy of calories in, calories out, are there any exceptions to the rule, such as if Greg Doucette were to accidentally set himself on fire while cooking?
Well, Not really, because this whole CICO idea hinges around the first law of thermodynamics, which does not apply to an open system such as a metabolic pathway, such as an organism of multicellular makeup. It's an invalid model. It's a law invoked in the wrong context in which it does not apply.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd still like to do that experiment if it's possible. Can we make that happen somehow?
Make what happen?
Never mind. Let's not go there.
I wasn't listening to you.
I was talking about the burning of the witch.
Okay. You see. Right.
Mm.
When training hypertrophy, what is the recommended protein amount per day while training?
2 grams per lean kilo of body mass, plus or minus about 10%. Still.
Good day from Oz. How do you go with the cricket this year, Bart?
We qualified in 4th position for the top 4, bottom 4 in our league playoff. However, the league decided to penalise us for not breaking any rules whatsoever, just because they wanted to, because the bloke that runs the association here is a card-carrying member of another club that benefited from such. Anyway, that's how cricket goes here in the boondocks of the former New Zealand, now the communist state of whatever Stan. So we had to play bottom 4 instead, and we got to the final game of that and had our worst day out and didn't win it. And then we did 2020s after that, and that's just 2020s. Luckily, though, we did beat the club that caused the problem with our qualification thing by complaining about a game that they weren't even involved in, to their bloke who's a card-carrying member of their club, who is the guy that runs the entire competition, single bloke, no oversight. Interesting, isn't it? That's how we went. I was outstanding as a captain, except for one day when I lost my rag and told my team that we needed to lift our standards and our fucking heads, frankly.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yes, it's going to rain again. Hurrah.
I'm going to have to set up 50 billion paddocks and move 50 billion animals today.
Yes.
I was hoping it would not do that
Right.
just yet.
If you're joining us late, stick around after the questions and answers. I'm going to talk about that fucking LMHR study in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get wheat ASAP,
I'm going to get wet ASAP. Brew.
apparently.
Hey, brew.
Would you happen to know how herbivores, ruminant, get their proteins from?
Yes, I would. 70% plus of the protein derived by cows, for example, is in the form of digesting bacteria that they have been cultivating in their first 3 stomachs, which they then douse liberally with acid in their 4th stomach and digest them. Thank you for the protein. That's
Good.
how. Most of the grass that gets eaten by a cow gets shit out the back untouched, in fact. About, 70-something% of it.
Could you please put Dr. Ids in his place? He's all over the internet spouting his nonsense and making all kinds of videos battering the carnivore diet.
Possibly, if I can be bothered. Basically, at the end of the day, this bloke is a comedy schoolboy.
Mhm.
An arrogant, offensive comedy schoolboy who is basically completely out of his depth. Yeah, not even someone who would be thought to be qualified to speak about the topic on the basis of his credentials.
This was funny.
Yeah.
How is Bartlandia or Kazakhstan going?
Well, I guess Bartlandia would have to be a province of Pimbatia, the independent sovereign nation of Pimbatia. How's it going? Some things are going well, other things are frustrating. It's a battle to get the place under control. We're getting there. We're spending a fortune on fencing, for example. We're buying bits of kit that we need to do things that we need to do around the place. We're building things.
Did you get my video this morning?
I did not get your video this morning.
Jesus.
Did you send me a video this morning?
We have a waterfall again.
Oh, so there's actually water in the pond.
Oh yeah, I heard it.
Wow. The pond has been dry for some
Just
months.
so that we can't fucking dig it out.
Of course.
Anyhow, it's waiting for you when you have time to find it.
All right. Or I could just go and have a look. It's only 500 meters walk from here or less.
Yes. So, do you know the best way to recover from a stroke? Are there any supplements you would recommend?
5 health hacks that I would suggest would be the things that a person in that situation should do in order to put themselves, in my understanding, in the best likelihood of the best healing and outcome possible. They are covered in that video called 5 Health Hacks You Need to Know.
Thoughts about cluster density training. Also, is volume crucial for non-enhanced hypertrophy training?
Okay, I am, I guess, a little bit old school, but also a little bit cutting edge in terms of these kind of things around exercise physiology, because I was trained 20-something years ago as an exercise physiologist. It was my first undergraduate degree, as it was. Actually, I went up to master's level in exercise physiology specifically. The most important thing in terms of muscle hypertrophy training in my mind still is intensity, and absolutely not volume. Intensity is king. Intensity is key. Volume is, if anything, potentially unhelpful. So there's that one answered. And if you want to try different things like cluster and density training and things like that, fuck around and find out. But at the end of the day, be under no illusions. Volume is not your friend. Intensity is, i.e., the mass that you're overcoming, up to an ideal rep range for hypertrophy, which is 6 to 8. So you lift a weight that you can lift 6 to 8 times, but not 9. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
This is scary, if
Is
it's
it?
true. I'm going to copy your answers one day. The UK wants beef and cheese banned by 2050.
Uh-huh. It's not the UK that wants that. The UK is an entity that doesn't have an opinion. It's the current powers that be that may be working towards that end. Luckily, every X number of years, I believe it's 5 in the UK, you get to have a vote on who's in charge. Sometimes they listen to what the vote says before they install the next government at His Majesty's pleasure. Of course, His Majesty will not be helpful to us carnivores, will he? While ever His Majesty remains His Majesty. I mean, he's a card-carrying member of the other sect. Isn't he?
Are you done?
Yes.
Will there be a video about 10 health hacks?
Why would I? 5 health hacks takes out 95+% of the problem. The next 5 would just be noise, really. That's the things where people say to me, what about this? What about that? What about the other thing? And I always say, well, it's number 6 or lower, and it's less than 5% total. Probably a lot less than 5. Yeah.
Right. Hello, Professor K.
Hello.
Just want to say you helped me a bunch in developing my scientific criticism skills. Thanks for all that you do.
You're very welcome.
Didn't God in the Bible already gave us what was our specific food for our species? Bible always referred the first flock and its fat portion, Lamb of God offerings, fattened calf to celebrate.
The Bible is a book written by men, not by God. God has never communicated directly with humanity in the sense that you would be talking about with saying this is God's word on paper. This is a book written by men claiming that they were writing down the words of God. I wonder what they were smoking.
Must have been good.
And where do I get some?
Indeed, a Rooney. Best way to progress in intensity in body weight training. Is it even possible without additional weight?
Well, it's additional resistance and or hitting muscles in a different way that causes progression. There will be plateaus in your training from time to time that you will need to bust through by changing things up. I can talk to you about those kind of things in more detail in a consultancy session, bit.ly/Bart-KAY.
Will heavyweight training affect you when you get old, as in knees, etc.?
If anything, there seems to be some evidence that the apparent wear and tear and aging process seems to be delayed in those who have an appropriate level of the appropriate kinds of fitness, including basic strength and mobility.
Mm.
Mhm.
How do you feel about Lauren Lockman healing what he claims is everything with water fasting over 21 days and a fruitarian diet?
Lauren Lockman is an imbecile, a dangerous, arrogant imbecile whose advice nobody should follow on any topic whatever, whether he be right or wrong about fasting in particular. He's definitely wrong about every aspect of human anthropology, physiology, organ systems, the required intake of nutrient, also the ideal way in which that should be made up. Absolutely wrong. In which case, why would you listen to such an imbecile?
Right, I think that was all the questions.
Very good. Very good.
Am I excused then?
You are excused, and we'll talk about this fucking LMHR nonsense, shall we?
I might be able to finish my veal broth.
Yes, you might. Thank you for
It's
your
gone
services to mankind today.
Yes, I shall heat it up again. Tastes better.
Right, I'm going to steal your seat because it's more comfortable than this one.
Is it?
Thank you, Ted, for your services today to humanity as well. He's finished twiddling the knobs. Good for him.
Good.
And now we can move into the second part of proceedings. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Oh, speaking of old knees and shit. Incredible.
How many minutes was that?
Oh, about
42.
42. That's pretty good, boys and girls. I'm impressed. I am impressed. Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, dog.
Go on, dogs. See you later.
It's a fat ass.
Yes, the dogs have a fat ass. Yes. That's right.
Are you coming out?
Right. Just you and me now. Staff, just you and me. All right. So many of you will be aware during the last weeks, whatever it's been, 2 weeks, since the publication of this piece of work by Adrian Soto Motar and Nick Norwitz and others, there has been a social media shitstorm about this paper. So before we get into what does this paper actually say, what does it not actually say, etc., I want to make some general comments before we get into it. Number one, right back at the very beginning, when Dr. Norwitz came to public notoriety in terms of social media, I think largely with the assistance of one Dr. Sean Baker. Personally, that's my opinion on how that came about. I repeatedly made several warnings, caveat statements about Nick Norwitz, which I'll repeat again here, not because noodle, I told you so, but because noodle, I told you so. All right? Nick Norwitz lacks the wisdom and experience that a senior scientist would need to be a major part of any research team which is challenging such an entrenched dogma. Okay, what I'm saying to you is nothing against Nick personally. I do not know the boy. I've never spoken to him directly. I've never communicated to him in any way, shape, or form, except via my statements about him on this fine platform here, where I've said basically words to the effect of, if I were selecting the research team to go to battle on this, he would not be on it. He has not earned that place. Okay? His mate, Adrian, seems to be slightly more experienced. Slightly. He would not be on my team either doing this work. Okay, they are doing this work. They are entitled to do this work. It's their right to do this work. But what they've actually done through inexperience and poor discipline, they have actually done exactly what I suggested was a possibility, and that is to set the cause back in the minds of those who are still sitting on the fence. This set of nonsense here, what it has done is given the veg-tarded an opportunity to publicly cast aspersions at our entire side of the argument on the basis that this clown show here, basically, are acting as the only people doing any science, they say, around this topic, without ever disclaiming what they're doing is nothing remotely akin to science, in fact. All right. They also have several other MDs, etc., MPHs. There's a chemist in there. There's an engineer in there, a non-scientist engineer with really no business in this field, let's be honest. And the corresponding author, or the final author on the paper, an MD named Budoff, who has had aspersions cast at him previously for this exact lack of discipline that we'll be talking about when we discuss this paper. Okay? So, what I'm saying is this paper does not help. The mistakes are, number one, the staff in that research team are absolutely not the people I would pick to do this job. They lack the experience, discipline, or whatever else to actually make themselves unassailable. They have given an opportunity for our antithesists to attack us credibly, thus setting the cause back and not bringing the cause forward. And I, for one, am not impressed. I think that's pretty clear already, but that's where we're at with it. So let's deal with some of the comments that have been coming through as I've been introducing my thoughts about this research team and the level and tenure of this work. It is not worth the paper it is written on. We'll get to that in a minute. It is a waste of time. Not only is it a waste of time, it's damaging because of the way it's presented and because of the lack of discipline shown by this research team. Some pretty basic fundamental aspects, which, as I say, I will get to. Anyway, here we go. Here we go. Do you know the best way to cover from? We covered that one, right? Yes, and that one, and that one. Yes. Yes. All Christians we've dealt with. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Yes. Okay. All right. There we go. How would you consume coffee if you want to minimize its harmful effects? By not doing so. There you go. That's how I'd do it. All right, let's look at this paper. Plaque begets plaque. ApoB does not. Straight away, staff, we have a very serious problem here. The title of this paper purports to be capable to inform on an outcome that it is not. Come on then. Hey, can you say hello? Hello, fluffy dog. I'm so attached to hund. Oh, yes. Oh. This poor girl is, apparently she's lost her hearing in the last 6 months or so. She's 12 years of age and is a complete cockhole, aren't you? Are you in cockhole? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, lucky you've got cute going on in spades, isn't it? Yes. Right. So straight away, problem. Absolute problem. Plaque begets plaque. It says. That's a cause and effect inference. This paper is incapable, by its very research design, of informing on cause nor effect, period. That is the basic discipline that was required. And then, comma, ApoB does not. Another cause and effect inference. Okay? This is why none of the people on this research team would be on my team. You cannot make a statement like that in the title of your paper in scientific literature and expect to be taken seriously as a scientist. This is an associative, naturalistic observation under basically no control whatsoever, except that the population being studied was somewhat delimited by virtue of saying, here is the inclusion criteria for you to be a part of this study. Okay, so even if they were disciplined in the title of this paper, which is, this is associated with that, the other thing is not, that would have been the correct terminology, that would still be a bit possibly misleading, because this is a delimited population. This is not a paper that is personed by human beings drawn at random from the population. They are a certain age or older. They have a certain self-reported history of dietary intake, or they don't. They have a certain body fat carriage on their body at the time of the start of the study, or they don't. And several other parameters like the level of LDL, HDL, and triglycerides in their blood, also ApoB. So we have a very delimited population, a very specific group of people who nonetheless still have hundreds of thousands of degrees of freedom separating them one from the other. Confounds, covariates, collinearities. There is no control exerted in this study. It is not an experiment. It is incapable of informing on cause nor effect, period. Okay? Ergo, its very publication is not a service to mankind. It is a waste of time, and as has proven, because of lack of discipline, it has proven to be a real detriment to this community. Mostly for this reason. When the study design was registered prior to the study commencing, as you do with these kind of studies, a primary outcome measure was selected. That primary outcome measure was a computer tomography generated measurement of soft plaque in the arteries serving the heart tissue itself. In the final write-up of the paper, there is no reference in the text anywhere to the primary outcome, and a report on the value of it is buried in small print in one of the figures in an unassuming way. Now, whether or not that affects the veracity and validity of the outcomes of this paper is immaterial to the optic there. That was a schoolboy error for this research team to register a primary outcome measure that they then conveniently forget or choose not to bring forward as the most important thing in their paper. This tells the reader, A, either that they have something to hide, and then our antithesists, have proposed the thing that they think this research team is hiding, which we'll get to in a minute. So they've taken the worst possible interpretation, or almost as bad, the research team have sat down with the data after its collection and gone, what should we talk about here? What can we find? Let's do a shotgun analysis here. Never mind that thing we said we were going to look at, because it doesn't look that great. Let's talk about other stuff. That was never actually necessarily the point. Absolutely scientific and academic harikari there, boys and girls. They are all over this, and rightly so. And I'm furious. Wow. And we've got as far as the title of the thing, by the way. So I don't know how long this is going to take. Set yourselves in, who knows? All right, so background. Changes, it says, in low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, LDL-C, among people following ketogenic diets are heterogeneous. Okay, changes from what to what? Baseline to some observation period or another? Whatever. I mean, this is just the abstract. They'll probably explain it better below, methinks, but straight away, these are the thought processes. Changes, okay, from what to what? From which condition to what condition? Under what circumstances? Okay, these changes are heterogeneous. That means individual people respond all over the spectrum. Up, down, no change. There's huge noise around this signal. Okay? All right, fine. So what we're saying is that when we measure someone's LDL-C, cholesterol they call it, it's not cholesterol, by the way, but they call it that, after they've been following a ketogenic diet, self-reported, so nonsense. And what is a ketogenic diet, by the way? Define ketogenic diet. Presumably, this paper has an operational definition of what that is in their selection bias that they imposed for their delimitation of their population. Don't know. Okay. Prior work has identified an inverse association between body mass index and change in LDL-C. It's the lean mass hyperresponder hypothesis model. An idea, a so-called genotype with no actual identified gene sequence that underpins it. It's a construct. It's an idea put forward by, well, an engineer. Okay? However, the cardiovascular disease risk implications, implied risk, I suppose that's okay. Nonetheless, I'm averse to the word risk being used in any of these associative papers because risk implies established mechanism. If you jump off a 100-foot cliff, the risk is you'll die when you hit the bottom. The mechanism is the sudden stop. These are established facts. Nobody remotely sensible is questioning those. It is a risk. It's a pretty damn high risk. 100-foot cliff, that'll probably do it, depending on what's below you, I guess. LDL cholesterol concentration taken on one and sometimes fewer than one occasions, none at all, okay, is not a risk factor. There is no mechanism which is established by which LDL causes the progression of plaque, despite the opinion piece published by the completely uncompromised European consensus panel on cardiovascular disease, or whatever they call themselves. The one where I've often showed that minute and 30-second videotape of the conflict of interest statement rolling past the screen in Star Wars credits style, just about, with dum dum da da dum da dum sometimes behind it, and sometimes the Four Seasons by Vivaldi, depending which videos you've watched of mine. All right, good. So the cardiovascular risk implications of these lipid changes remain unknown. That is correct. Okay, so the background is that when people self-report to have gone on a ketogenic diet, whatever that is, all sorts of things happen in terms of their lipids in their blood. And we don't know what that really implies for long-term health. Okay, fine. Good. Objectives. The aim of the study was to examine the association between plaque progression and its predicting factors. 2 problems with that. Number 1, no, that's not the registered primary outcome measure at all, because that's not a delimited statement. It was non-calcified plaque progression in the coronary arteries, as closely estimated by the electron tomography measuring device, comma, and its predicting factors. Well, you'd use correlations for prediction, but you would also delimit and say this is not a cause and effect statement. This is incidence. Okay, right. Methods, 100 individuals. So, okay, do we have statistical power then to talk about a population of 100 individuals? Well, we'd have to do the power calculation. Hopefully it's discussed in the paper. Don't know. 100 individuals exhibiting ketogenic diet induced LDL-C greater than 190 milligrams per deciliter. Induced. That is a cause and effect statement. No, you selected people who self-reported to be on a ketogenic diet who already had that level of LDL. You can make no statement whatever about what caused it. Absolute nonsense. They also had high-density lipoprotein cholesterol, they call it. This isn't cholesterol still, greater than 60 milligrams per deciliter, and triglycerides less than or equal to 80 milligrams per deciliter. How many times was that tested at baseline so that we get an idea of the repeatability of that measure in the individuals before any intervention occurs? Oh, that's right. This paper is imposing no situation to test experimentally, because the next thing as it says here is they were followed for 1 year using coronary artery calcium and coronary computed tomography angiography. Well, no, they weren't followed by that. A specific thing was measured in them on, I'm assuming, just 2 occasions, at the beginning and at the end of a year, with no control, no lock-in situation, no disciplined observation, and no ability, therefore, to speak about cause nor effect. None at all. Okay, so why the vegtards are getting all excited about this paper? Well, the reason they're getting all excited about it is because people in our community have got all excited about it because they've been racked up to get all excited about it by people who should probably not be talking about what is going on in the science, because that's not their field. And I'm cross, as I said. Right, so there it is. All right. So they followed 100 individuals who claim to be on a ketogenic diet, whatever that means, for not less than 2 years prior. And they happened, these people, to have a certain metabolic profile in terms of the lipids and triglycerides. Well, triglyceride is a lipid, but there you go. In their blood. And then they let a year elapse without doing anything, and then they measured them again. Okay, so this paper is worthless. Absolutely, utterly, fundamentally worthless. There is not a single thing of utility that can come out of this paper. And it should never have been published, let alone getting all excited about it. Okay, when Dr. Norwitz came online and was, finally, all excited about it, finally we got this paper published. Okay, another schoolboy error. To be all excited about a paper that it's quite clear that, well, these boys are out of their depth, it seems to me. All right. So, plaque progression predictors were assessed with linear regression and Bayesian factors. Okay, so they're using the word predictor to describe something that was correlated with something else. on this occasion in this specific delimited population under the circumstances imposed here, which was no control or even decent observation about what these people actually did during their year of follow-up. Right. Diet adherence and baseline cardiovascular disease risk sensitivity analyses were performed. Okay, well, that's just noise. It means nothing, and it's not of any utility. It's also nothing remotely akin to anything that anyone with any scientific background would call remotely scientific at all. So this methodology is entirely incapable of providing utility of information to anybody about anything. It's absolute nonsense, and it's proven to be damaging because of the inexperience and ill discipline of the one experienced author, it seems, in that paper, who really ought to have known better. Whoops, he's the one that's had the same finger poked at him before for the same thing, changing the primary outcome post or during data collection to change the focus of a paper away from something negative, perhaps. You absolute idiot. My word. My word. I don't know what my word is, but my word nonetheless. Okay, so let's talk about the results of the study. High apolipoprotein B. Well, where was that mentioned? I thought this study was about the progression of plaques. Oh, we've measured ApoB as well. Again, on 2 occasions, at the beginning and at the end, perhaps? Any idea of the repeatability or reliability of that particular measurement in any given individual? Oh, that's right. Dr. Norwitz himself did an N=1 observation where he changed his blood lipid parameters vastly, hugely overnight by eating a popular brand of biscuits. Whoops. Whoopsie, whoopsie, whoops, whoops. All right. Anyway, high apolipoprotein B, median 107. Well, why median? Why not mean? Do you have a skewed data set? Is that what you're saying? Median 178 milligrams per deciliter, and then parameters for the first to third quartiles. And LDLC, again, parameters given, blah, blah, blah. And total plaque score. Total plaque score, very scientific, a construct, a thing that has to be put together by measuring other things that you can actually measure. Why not just report the things that were measured and forget this made-up score thing? Because, well, is the score a continuous variable? No, it's a discontinuous variable. Very scientific, boys. Good work. If this wasn't so infuriating, I'd be laughing. I really would. But this makes me very, very cross indeed, frankly. All right. Anyway, so baseline APO, all right. Neither change in ApoB, whatever direction that was, baseline ApoB, whatever that was, nor total LDLC exposure, whatever that means, were associated with the change in non-calcified plaque volume or the total plaque score thing, whatever that is. Excuse me. Bayesian inference calculations were between 6 and 10 times more supportive of the null hypothesis, i.e. that no association between ApoB and plaque progression, than of the alternate hypothesis, which suddenly is now about ApoB and LDL, which was never registered in the trial primary outcome measurements in the first place. It's also no surprise, of course, there's no meaningful, decent correlation between those factors, because any of us that understand the physiology at all know absolutely, without doing any of these ridiculous non-scientific survey studies here, that those things are not the cause of atherosclerosis. Patently and clearly, all we need to do is put together a deterministic model of atherosclerosis, and we know, oops, LDL cannot possibly be the cause and neither can ApoB. We don't need any of this nonsense here that just does damage by inexperienced scientists and ill-disciplined scientists, as the case may be. If the hat fits, boys, it would be wet around here right now, then you wear that hat, okay? Because you haven't helped. You've set us back in a very serious way. You've given them absolute free rein to carve us up with your ill discipline. All right. Conclusions. In lean, metabolically healthy people on a ketogenic diet, self-reported, neither total exposure nor changes in baseline levels of ApoB and LDL-C were associated with changes in plaque. Well, they were, in fact. Even if the value of a correlation is 0.0, you can say, well, that's what the correlation coefficient was. Anything above 0.000, any number of zeros you like, 1, and negative the same value in the opposite direction. No, they are associated, just not very well. All right? What you really should be saying there was no meaningful or useful association. Conversely, baseline plaque was associated with plaque progression. Yes, in a relative sense, but so what? This is not a causal study anyway. This is a loose inference based on associations under no control and no observation whatsoever, and on a pre and post measure, I imagine, without anything in between, I imagine. All right. Supporting the notion that in this population, okay, plaque begets plaque. No, it doesn't suggest that at all. That's completely ill-disciplined nonsense. And that ApoB does not. Very, very poorly written, very badly done, very ill-disciplined, not helpful. And if I was anyone who knew anything about science on their side of the argument right now, I'd be carving this up in the way I am doing here. Or the way that I'm suggesting that they are. I'm probably approaching it slightly better than that. But there it is. This study was an absolute shambles. Conducted incredibly poorly. I mean, if you look at the figure here on the left, the first square, where it shows a straight line and 95% confidence intervals, I assume, through this chart, you can see that this is a change in the plaque score thing, the thing I was poking shit at before, a non-continuous variable. Look at how the data is clustered there. What it shows is that ApoB does not correlate with change in the score, whatever the hell that score is. That's all. Doesn't tell us anything about cause and effect one way or the other. Of course it doesn't. It's an associative data set. The second one here, where it's claimed to be, oh, this, look, here's a strong correlation here with 95% intervals. Well, look at the bloody noise around it. Look at where the black dots are, and look at the level to which it's extrapolated beyond the highest level here, which is around about in line with the C underscore. Okay, so this chart should stop there. Look how much is projected forward, extrapolated forward, with no data to underpin such an extrapolation. So, in fact, the baseline CAC score does not correlate meaningfully in any way, shape, or form with the change in the actual estimated measurement by the proton tomography of the actual soft plaque. And so what the antithesists are crying foul on is they are suggesting that, oh, this population showed more rapid plaque progression than other populations. Great. Which populations? Studied under what conditions? And were there any degrees of freedom that differ between these two populations other than a self-reported dietary pattern, whatever the hell that means? No. So both sides of this argument are null, void, vacuous, anti-scientific, ill-disciplined, ill-educated, This is all nothing more than pointless noise from people who frankly have no business whatever analyzing the quality of the science. And every single author on this paper, in my mind, has now absolutely reduced their own individual credibility as a scientist to none by publishing this work. This should never have seen the light of day. It does not help. It was never going to help. And the ill discipline with which it has been communicated to the public has put us in a position as a community to now be the laughing stock of our antithesis, who absolutely ought to be the ones that we are pointing and laughing at. Well done, boys and girls and boys. Not happy. Right, there it is. There is my take on this paper. You may now regale me with your commentaries around how brilliant that was or whatever, or if you want to argue with me in some way, that'd be fine too. Any questions on any of that? Waiting. I'll wait a few minutes for questions if there are any on that. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up and say that's an office hour and a half. That's some science, that's a few questions, that's a little bit of comedy, less than usual, and only mild slaggings off of people that definitely deserve slagging off, plus a professional rebuke for the research team and authors of this ridiculous nonsense that I've been talking about today. Yes, Andy, you're late. Very late indeed. You can stay behind after class and report to Ted for a right good telling off and such. Thank you, Deborah, for the $5. Appreciate those very much. Who would be on my scientific team? I would have to think about that quite carefully as to who I invited on my team. Most of the research that I ever did in my career was done as an individual. There are about certainly less than half a dozen papers of any quality that were as part of a research team. Most of them are all first and sole author papers. I've come to rely on me a lot, and others not so much in terms of scientifically. But I'm sure there are others who would qualify for my team. Perhaps if you want to be on my research team to try and sort this out, let me know. It would be good if you are a current working academic with access to laboratory resources, because I don't have that anymore. All right. It seems we cannot extrapolate graphs past the data points. That is correct. You cannot with any veracity. You do not know what will happen to the relationship beyond that which is proposed for the data such that it is. It's called extrapolation, as you correctly say, and as I said previously, it is inappropriate scientifically to extrapolate. It's guesswork. Not good enough. Yes, okay. I will sit through Carballo's take on it if I can stomach it, frankly. The boy gives me the shits, basically, every time he opens his mouth. You're very welcome, Catherine. Very welcome indeed. Rick, as always, good. Yes. Yes, it is your lot, Andy, but you can go back to the beginning and watch from the start, if you like. In fact, you should watch it 3 or 4 times as penance, doing the rosary the whole time, since it's Easter Sunday or something. Well, it's Easter Sunday here anyway. What would be your guess, if you had to, as to why they saw plaque progression? Because whatever those particular people had been doing for the last X number of decades, in fact, was the contributing factor to their plaque status at the outset. And as such, that trend would probably continue to some degree or another for some period beyond having changed their behavior to a so-called ketogenic diet, whatever the hell that is, not shorter than 2 years previously. So their baseline was informed by things that were completely nothing to do with the current research, ergo were complete invalidating confounders. Ergo, no statement about dietary pattern can be made on the basis of this study. Simple as that. Too easy. What would my guess be as to why they saw plaque progression? That's why. Because of their lifestyles, behaviors and things prior to the 2 years that they'd been ketogenic, whatever that is. Yeah. Yes, that's what I do here. I drink and I expose the truth. Only I drink a lot less these days because it's not good for me or anybody around me. Yes, if you want something done properly, do it yourself. Very good. Some Pacific pesos, some New Zealand dollars. We like New Zealand dollars, not as much as American ones or Australian ones or what, just about anything really. But nonetheless, thank you very much for the New Zealand dollars. Morena, kei te pihi a koe. Kei te pai. Anyway, thank you for the $50 squids. Appreciate those. Seems if they had plaque to begin with and their takeaway is plaque begets plaque, then clearly whatever caused their plaque to begin with simply persisted, or indeed wasn't sufficiently ameliorated yet. Because often when I'm talking to people in my clinical practice or my pseudo-clinical practice, because these days it's an electronic consultancy with folks, I don't actually examine patients or do any of that kind of thing. Often they say to me, how long does it take for this, whatever it is, to come right? And my response is pretty invariant. It's usually, well, how long did it take you to fuck your health up? Okay, so there it is. Some people are quacks. Yes, our ducks are all quackers. They're all completely quackers. Yes, conjecture does not qualify as proof of anything. Correct. They, whoever they is, need to change the numbers they use to determine what an LMHR is for this study. No, they need to drop this ridiculous paradigm, this ridiculous idea that there's a somehow special group of people who they're calling LMHRs who are different from everybody else and are not subject to cholesterol being a problem, whereas everybody else is still, even though that's wrong. Nobody will experience heart disease caused by lipids, because lipids, boys and girls, are not the cause of heart disease. Still, we need to drop this ridiculous idea. We need to drop it completely. We need to stop with this bought and paid for nonsense. Lipids do not cause heart disease, period. Your Majesty, Herolaus, King of Tasmania, Herolaus Sopanos, good to see you, man. My man. Good to see you. Where have you been? I just about had to send flowers. I thought you'd checked out or something. Or have you been behaving like a good boy in the background over there in Tasmania? How's the Queen? All right? Good. Looking at this crap, he'll check it out soon. Good. We are all LMHRs. No, we're not. LMHRs are determined by definition by some ridiculous paradigm with no validity put together by an engineer who knows nothing basically about human physiology. Stephen Thomas has just interviewed Dave Feldman. Not sure when it will be published. Okie dokie. Good. I did a video, says Harry. I did a video showing plaque progression called calcification, friend or foe. It's called stabilizing soft plaque. It eventually clears up. Well, unless, of course, you keep the injurious pattern of behavior up that's causing the lesions to develop in the first place, in which case it won't clear up, will it? No. So, there it is. That was today's changed format live stream. 60 minutes of Q&A or less. It was 43 point something minutes as it turned out. And then some science du jour, thoughts and reaction videos more about like events than people and personalities. Although, today, obviously, I did have to mention my extreme disappointment with this particular research team in terms of the absolute pustulous garbage they've put forward and the lack of discipline with which they've done that. which has led to opening us all as a community up to the derision of a group of individuals who, frankly, are the ones who should be pointed and laughed at. Not helpful at all. I'm not happy. Why would I be? I did forewarn of some of the people involved in this research team being entirely lacking in the experience, wisdom, and discipline required to actually attack this area with the appropriate level of force that's required to deal with these idiots on the antithetical side of things. And my worst fears have come to light. This research team has made us the laughingstock. And I think they owe us all a very heartfelt apology. And I think they need to probably get one or two aspects under control in terms of where they sit and start thinking about who they should have on their team to make sure that these kind of mistakes don't happen in the future. There we go. There it is. Those were our people today, which is just a homage to a former television New Zealand presenter that's no longer with us. He used to say that at the end of all his broadcasts. Those were our people today. See you next time when someone will be wrong on the interwebs and stuff. There's an interview coming up tomorrow on the channel where I'm talking to a personal trainer from Weers. And that was a discussion about what is the appropriate diet for a human being. Is it any different if you're an athlete? And a bit about exercise physiology, if you want to learn something about that. It was all very instructive and nice and good, I think, personally. Tell me what you think when you've seen it by leaving comments, both when it's premiering tomorrow morning and also underneath the pre-recorded video when it becomes such after the premiere presentation has finished. That would be good. Also, you might want to link it out to your social media accounts so that it helps with visibility. And we'll see if we can get this ball rolling. By way of final reminders for the week, all stem cell nutrition products are available at that link there above my head, bkaynutrition.sarul.com. They are available in 70 countries and territories. You just go there and sign in and away you go. It's all good. In Australia and New Zealand, the hardcore carnivore formulation proposed by yours truly is available. We're the chest market, so get into that. And then the international market will be getting it as well. That'll be great. If you have not bought your ticket to attend the Carnivore Live conference, a day conference in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, on next Saturday, the 26th of April, then you should go to the link currently wending its way across the bottom of the screen, https://trybooking.com, and tell them you want to attend the Carnivore Live event on the 26th of April in Melbourne, and give them your credit card and order your tickets. See you there. So will Ted. We'll be there in the flesh. If you're not there, you will not see us. That'll be a shame for you. And Ted will take your name down, and he will visit you late at night when you least expect it, with his rampant wild beast in tow and that wetsuit with the bottom cut out, and such. So make sure you do that. Pretty much those are the take-home messages. See you next time when someone will be wrong. I will be wrong on the interwebs. Get the bio. Good. Grab your hardcore carnivore stem enhanced products now, guys. Yes, do that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, you're very welcome. Yes, good evening. No, Andy, you're staying behind after class, aren't you? To report to Ted, do the dusters and such. Goodness gracious. And Harry Laus, Sopanos, I think you ought to report to Ted after class too. Dreadfully late you were today. Dreadful. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. All right. See you next time. Should we sing the song? Should we do that? Who votes we sing the song? Ted said we should sing the song. Let's sing the song. Okay. Steak and eggs and steak. That's what you should have for your breakfast. Delicious. Eggs and steak and eggs. Just making sure you heard. I think they got it, kid. I think they got it. Yes. Yes. Join us next time. Are you still here? Why are you still here? We're finished. There's no more. Go home. Or something. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. Oh, fuck you, I'll hang up then.